The Lifestyle Show, presented by Selina MacKenzie.
Now, I found this really shocking. Did you know that in the dental profession, there are high rates of anxiety, depression, and even suicide? Quite alarming. Well, our first guest is an award-winning periodontist and co-founder of Breathe Dental Wellness, and she wants to support the mental health and well-being of dental professionals. She's also going to talk to us today about her latest book called Nail It Leadership, Your Blueprint to Optimal Performance. Welcome to the show, Dr. Rana Al-Falaki.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for being on the show. So we will go on to the book later, but for those that don't know, can you just explain what a periodontist is or what periodontics are?
That was the first thing that sprang to mind when you introduced me as that. Yes. So, I mean, just like how in medicine and doctors, you have your GP and then you have all of your specialists that you get referred to in hospital. So dentistry has a very similar pathway. So you have your dentist who trains for 5 years, and then you have your specialists who do at least another 6 years training. So you can't really imagine that we would specialize in tiny parts of the mouth, but we do. And so that is me. So I used to work as a consultant in the hospital, treating people with gum disease, gum conditions, and periodontics means everything around the teeth. That's perio, so the bone, the ligament, and the gums.
Well, I've certainly learned something today, so thank you for that. Interesting stuff. But on a serious side, those statistics are shocking. Why is it so prevalent in the dental industry?
They really are, and there is such a misconception because most of the time you walk into a dental practice and everybody smiles at you, right?
Yeah.
Oh, why on earth? What do they have to be stressed about? And they must earn so much money and they're fine. So what's the problem? And you don't realize, actually, we're incredibly good at putting masks on, not just the clinical ones, but no one wants to come to us when they're nervous and anxious if they see our stress. So part of it is we're incredibly skilled at masking that. But we're essentially working in a very time-pressured environment. We're working with a small team. Most dentists are never trained in business or leadership skills, and yet they have to run a business frequently on a very, very tight budget that isn't really, as opposed to GPs, it's not supplemented or supported by the NHS, even though you're providing NHS care. It's a completely different structure. So you have amazing, incredible dental nurses who sadly are underpaid because the budget doesn't allow us to keep them. There's a huge issue with retention, a problem with recruitment, and a lot of absenteeism, which on a small team has a huge, massive impact. And then you're dealing with nervous, anxious patients. You're dealing with very high-risk treatment, working in a very small, confined space. And the list just goes on. It is essentially an incredibly stressful job. And I've been in the dental industry for almost 3 decades now. And even then, it was considered to be one of the professions that had the highest rates of suicide, divorce, alcoholism, depression.
Wow. So it's not a new thing then?
It's not. But the latest rates are up to about 86% now. And including high suicide rates. And that's partly because of the way regulation has changed. So unfortunately, there's a very fear-based society going on. We're worse in the UK now than we ever were in America, with people threatening to sue you left, right and centre. And without realising, you are not our client, you're our patient, and we are doing our best for you and we're trying to look after you. But at the same time, we are dealing with the human body. You can't guarantee how the human body responds and heals. It's not, it's transactional because you have to pay for it. But at the same time, we're not providing a service, we're providing care. And unfortunately, a lot of the time you can't guarantee that. And then you have people who are threatening to sue you left, right and centre. Companies that stand outside dental clinics saying, how was your experience? Do you want to sue? And people writing to the regulatory bodies wanting to get you struck off for the fact that unfortunately something went wrong. And that is what happens in healthcare. But then it's your entire life and livelihood with investigations that hang over your head for 2 years, and yet you're expected to function normally. It's really horrific.
And I hope you don't mind me asking, but has this ever happened to you, Rana? Have you had burnout?
Yes. I definitely got to the stage when I was running my own practice, and I had my own personal issues going on as well. I'd had several miscarriages. I even went to work one day after giving birth to a dead baby. Which, it's really quite horrific. But I was self-employed, and I had a business, and I had 2 other children that I needed to look after, and I couldn't cancel my patients because they'd been waiting for me for months. So I felt this obligation for my patients. So it just kind of gives you an idea what we go through. I then was going through a divorce, had various other health issues, moved house several times, all of this stuff that goes, but yet you have to provide this excellent care for your patients at the same time. And I think for me, the culmination was actually a patient complaint, which became very, very personal. This person was stalking me online, on social media, wouldn't leave me alone, threatening my entire livelihood. Even my indemnity said, look, you haven't done anything wrong. You're not negligent. So if they want to report you, they'll report you and we'll defend you. But there's absolutely nothing you can do. So you need immense resilience skills. So eventually I buckled, and I got to the point where I was so stressed out. I was at work early, leaving at 8 o'clock at night, trying to run a business and deal with emails constantly, because now we've become much more accessible. So patients email, and then they want longer emails, and we're still people. We're still people. We not just pick up the phone and talk to you, instead of making us type these emails where you have an evidence trail. I mean, it's crazy. So for me, I got to the point where, I became chronically ill. I found myself unable to walk. I found myself unable to go to work reliably. And for me, eventually, a cardiologist gave me a really damning diagnosis of a heart problem, but it was more to do with my nervous system. And if I didn't sort myself out, I was going to be on lifetime medication for life. I mean, I'm pleased to say I that was my turning point. It was just get real. You're a human being, not a human doing. When are you going to sort yourself out? And I guess I needed that final push, because I hadn't woken up from anything else.
Well, I'm sorry to hear all that. And you took the words right out of my mouth, because I was going to say, we go and see dentists, we're going to see doctors, and we forget that they're human too.
Yeah.
Bless you. And is that, did you decide to stop being, in the dentist? Is that why you came up with the book?
No. So when I decided to sell my practice, I was thinking, right, like what's next for me? So, I mean, as a periodontist, I was a global pioneer, and all my research is being used by top universities now, including Harvard and London. And I was always someone who pushed the boundaries. And for me as a clinician, it was all about how can I do minimally invasive treatment and the best possible thing for my patients and keep pushing innovation. And so when I was coming to sell my practice, I'm just not someone who can sit still. It's like, what's the next thing? And for me, the thing that had really helped me was coaching, was being coached. And I decided, you follow the signs, and there were signs that happened that led me into choosing to become a coach. So I was still working as a periodontist, and then I was a coach. And people think the two don't really link, but I said it was about gum disease, but really my discipline of dentistry, because you were dealing with a chronic disease. So this gum disease contributes to the higher risk of Alzheimer's, heart disease, diabetes, respiratory illnesses, arthritis. It really is linked to the whole of the body. It's one of those massive inflammatory diseases. And so we're never just treating patients with our hands. We're having to really listen and tap into that patient to shift their mindset, to shift their behavior, to understand their stress levels, to understand them as a personality and a life, because what you do with them in the chair it won't work unless they change their behaviors as well. So that kind of linked really well to coaching. So I became a coach, and I actually wrote my first book back in 2019 called Women Who Want More: How to Create a Balanced and Fulfilled Life. And it was kind of deemed as, a much more practical version of The Secret, as you will.
Oh, yeah.
So it was great, very, very, very practical, looking at all the kind of different challenges in people's areas of lives and what you can do to improve them. And I think for me, after my chronic illness, that was what prompted me to then develop this system, because I had to say no. Yeah. I had to prioritize. I had to put in boundaries, and I really had to do even more work on truly understanding who I was and resonating in that. So one of the things I very often say to my clients and to the big companies that we work with when we implement leadership, well-being and performance training into company culture is understanding that, so I don't just work with dentists, is understanding that burnout is not about doing too much. If anything, I'm so much more productive and I'm even busier than I ever was. But it's about learning to align yourself. And when you're misaligned, be it with your values, your behavior, your communication, your authenticity, your energy set, all you're doing is expending all of this extra energy. You're effectively like a sieve. So if you fill up the holes of the sieve, then you can actually be so much more productive and get so much more done and be happier and be more balanced by really fine-tuning that. And so that was why I wrote the book. So I developed this system called NAILER. It's an acronym looking at 6 key pillars. So that's your needs, your attitude, your integrity, your limitlessness, so that's about your beliefs, your intuition, and then tangibility. And the mistake people make most of the time is when they want to achieve something, they go straight to that tangibility. Right, there's something I want to do. How do I do it? Instead of actually taking the time to make sure that you're aligned with that. So when you master that NAILER system, you can do so many goals and achieve so many things. That's why it's called the ultimate achievement formula, because you are completely aligned. So it ultimately makes up 38 components to really master productivity, living. I don't like to use this word, work-life balance, because
it's a bit of a buzzword, isn't it?
It is, but because it's part of us. So I like to use the word living, because if you really live your life fully, then you have work, you have health, you have social life, you have relationships, you have personal development, you have all of that. So really living. The A stands for amusement. Like, we're on this earth to have fun, to enjoy ourselves, to be happy. And we forget that. As we get older, we forget that. And yet, actually, even in the workplace, if you have fun, there's studies that have been done showing a happy workplace and you are 13% more productive. It's actually a performance indicator. And then the Y in that play model of what I call optimal performance, so mastering these pillars, is about yielding to habits. And it starts with one minute habit at a time, but it starts with you. You have to change the habit of being yourself, be it the way you think, feel, act, but you have to start somewhere. So that's what the NAILER system does. It gives you what I truly call optimal performance. So yes, it's burnout prevention, but it's also performance optimization, really sustainable high performance, understanding that the old formula of high performance actually leads to burnout.
Yeah, we should be working to live, not living to work.
100%. But then we should be loving our work at the same time. And it is possible, but we have to start with ourselves.
Yeah, and you are right. I think it's difficult. And I will say, particularly for women, to say no. You know, we like to be productive. We like to, I'm going to use it, have a work-life balance. But it's difficult to say no. And we should say no, because I'm taking a bit of time out for myself.
And it's learning to say no, right? So it's having the appropriate communication skills. I mean, and the other thing that women often suffer with a little bit more is imposter syndrome as well, right?
Yeah.
So, but it's about grounding yourself. It's about having enough belief and confidence in who you are so that you can say no. But how do you say no? So you need to be able to communicate it in such a way that honors yourself, but also recognizes the other person's needs. And that's a skill. It's something you have to learn. And I write about it in the book so that you develop these skills. So we're not just saying you should do this and this is what you need. We try to provide, or I provide, a really practical toolkit for exactly how you can do it and give you more ways than one, because every single person is different. Some people need to write stuff down, for example. Some people prefer to verbalize. Some people can visualize. Some people can't visualize, so they need audio instead. So the book provides all of those things depending who you are and how you learn. Let me give you insight to understand yourself, but also let me give you the really practical tools to truly, truly shift.
Yeah, very good message. So you said that your first book came out in 2019. Is this your second one then, or have you written more?
So this is my second one. So I've written several chapters in other books, stuff around the law of attraction and stuff around consciousness and a way of being. And then this was my, okay, right, let me sit down and this is the next thing. It just has to burst out of me, getting fed up with this definition of success that we hear so much. Something needs to change. So it was like, right, book number 2 has to come out now. And it really is a resonance of me. And I've called it Nail It Leadership, kind of understanding that you have to lead yourself. So it's very much about how you incorporate and develop yourself, self-leadership, in order to learn to lead others.
And you have a podcast as well?
We do. So very much encompassing that Nail It philosophy, which is lead better, live fully, and laugh more. So we have the Nail It podcast as well. We always ask our guests at the start, give us what your favorite quote is and why, and then go on to a discussion where I just really like our listeners to truly gain some value from the fact that they're investing their time to listen. And then we always summarize it with, what's your favorite Nail It pillar and why? So that we can, and it's, what I find fascinating about that is, I said we have these 6 pillars. And I think to date, no one has ever said that needs they think is one of their most important pillars.
That's sad.
And yet, isn't it? And yet it's the Kickstart Wellbeing Framework. It's the foundation for success. It's understand your needs, your emotional intelligence, your communication, your boundaries. But I think what happens is people who are career people, because, all this stuff is aimed at really professionals, entrepreneurs, business owners. And I think they immediately think, oh, yeah, we need to have the right attitude to succeed. Or, yes, we need to smash through our limiting beliefs. And it's like, yes, you do. Or we'll use intuition, which is such a profound leadership skill that's underused nowadays. And yet your needs, if you don't sort yourself out first, how on earth can you ever help anybody else?
Very true, very true. Well, Dr. Rana has 3 decades of experience in healthcare and leadership. She's delivered transformational training and coaching across 5 continents, empowering thousands of professionals to achieve high performance without burnout. The book is called Nail It Leadership, Your Blueprint to Optimal Performance, and it's by Dr. Rana Al-Falaki, who we're chatting to now. And we're selling it right now, as always, on our website, TRE.radio. Dr. Rana, do you have a website as well?
I do. So just exactly my name. So Dr. Rana Al-Falaki. So DrRanaAlFalaki.com. And all my details are on there.
Great stuff. A very informative interview. Thank you so much for being on the show with us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
Take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye.